And it's time. Time to say thank you. Time to say goodbye.
We're following breaking news at 5. Police Chief Ed Flynn announces he is retiring from the Milwaukee Police Department. He made the announcement less than an hour ago and one day after his 10-year anniversary with the department. The chief recapped his accomplishments, including crime statistics, and said he's accomplished his commitment not to let the people of Milwaukee down. He thanked the men and women of the department and announced he'll be leaving February 16th. My co-anchor Bill Walsh was there as the chief touted a decade of accomplishments. He joins us now live from the Police Administration Building. Bill?
The chief says he's going out on his terms. He had been planning this for months. As you likely know, he has been under very harsh criticism, very public criticism from the Milwaukee Common Council, almost every single member of it. I asked the chief if that played into his decision to retire. He says no, and then he had some very pointed words for his critics. Take a listen.
Political criticism is part and parcel of this job. You know, I mean, people who do, and people who criticize, I guess, you know, some of them become aldermen. But you know, the rest of us have to focus on what our mission is. And so, no, that wasn't an issue. But you know, as I say, this was a good benchmark for me. And I was really, you know, we were really focused on doing something. I mean, 15 and 16 were just dreadful homicide numbers. They were just awful by any measure. So we were trying to do something about that.
Flynn says by any objective standard, he leaves MPD as a model agency, but he also admitted that MPD not without controversy, not without mistakes by officers who were acting against their training. Flynn says use of force department-wide down 20% since 2014, and MPD, by and large, has the trust of the public. Flynn, only the 17th person to lead the Milwaukee Police Department. He has had this position since 2008, succeeding former police chief Nan Haggerty. Prior to taking this job, Flynn was a police commissioner in Springfield, Massachusetts. Chief Flynn's department heavily criticized after Officer Christopher Manny shot and killed Dontre Hamilton after a struggle in Red Arrow Park. Manny never criminally charged, but the chief did fire him for what he called an out-of-policy pat-down search. At the same time, he pointed out the difficult decisions officers have to make every single day. Later that year, Chief Flynn overcome with anger and emotion as he talked about the gunfire that took the life of 5-year-old Layla Peterson. At the time, he was questioned about using his phone during a meeting about the police shooting of Dontre Hamilton. The chief's emotional response drew national attention. Again, Police Chief Ed Flynn announces his retirement after almost exactly 10 years in that position. You know, when we asked him about when he'll leave, he was a little vague about that. He says sometime in the second week of February, he'll load up a moving truck and then get on with being a grandfather. Live at the Police Administration Building in downtown Milwaukee, I'm Bill Walsh. Kate, let's send it back to you.
Thank you so much, Bill. It's a major change, of course, atop the power structure of the city. Mayor Tom Barrett stood next to Flynn during his announcement and had this to say after the chief took the podium.
It was 10 years ago that we took a gamble. We took a gamble with this outsider from the East Coast. And the question then was, well, is he going to stay? Is he going to stay, or is he just going to travel through this city? Well, we know for the last 10 years, Chief Edward Flynn has given his all for the people of this community.
The mayor called Flynn a leader and a constant fixture in a city where there's been so much change, telling him he's earned the right to retire after the work he's done and after so many years of service. Alderman Tony Zielinski, not as kind in his remarks. Immediately following the announcement, Zielinski sent us this, quote, "Quite frankly, I do not believe the chief should be rewarded for a lackluster tenure that increasingly saw him brushing off or even ignoring council members, the Fire and Police Commission, and ultimately the citizens of Milwaukee." Acting Milwaukee County Sheriff Richard Schmidt said this, "I thank Chief Flynn for his many years of service and appreciate his dedication to the city of Milwaukee." The Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission thanked the chief for 10 years of service to the city and said after a process, the Fire and Police Commission will select an acting chief from within the department. Stay with CBS 58 for the latest on this breaking announcement, on air, online, and of course on our social media platforms as we continue to learn more about the chief's departure from the department. Turning now to our other top story today, the Packers make it official, hiring Brian Gutekunst as their new general manager. CBS 58's Scott Grotsky reports from Green Bay on his introduction to Packers fans.
It's the start of a new era with major changes to a Green Bay Packers organization that rarely makes any. President and CEO Mark Murphy announced the team hired Brian Gutekunst as their new general manager and a whole new structure to the organization. Gutekunst, head coach Mike McCarthy, and newly promoted executive VP and director of football operations Russ Ball will all report to Murphy. Here's what that means. Gutekunst has final say on the roster. He'll be the one in charge of the draft, free agency, and roster cuts.
Organizations evolve, and you can always improve. I decided that it would be in the best long-term interest of the organization to change the structure. For this to be very successful, I think the key is going to be all of us working together.
I let Mark know on Friday that this is my dream job, that I absolutely love this place.
Part of being more involved includes picking Gutekunst as the new GM over 3 others, including Ball and another internal candidate, Elliott Wolf.
I think he's a natural leader. I'm really excited about what he's going to be able to do for this organization in the future. Has a great background, great experience, and is an excellent evaluator of talent.
You know, I think we have a lot of quality pieces of this team, but there's a lot of work to do as well. You know, we need to get competitive in every group, so nobody feels safe.
Gutekunst was also interviewing for the general manager position in Houston. Coming up in sports, we'll take a look at his background and how he plans to approach the draft and free agency. Reporting at Lambeau Field, Scott Grodzki, CBS 58 Sports.
Many changes and reshuffling for the Packers so far this offseason, including an overhaul of the coaching staff, which fans hope will lead the team in a new direction. Stay with CBS 58 as we continue to follow the Packers on air and online at CBS58.com. Well, we hit 40 degrees for the first time since before Christmas today, and boy, did it feel good. Will these mild temps stick around? Chief Meteorologist Drew Burgoyne is getting us ready. Hey, Drew.
Kate, I don't know about you, but just walking outside.
All right, Drew, thank you so much. A missing Milwaukee boy has been found safe 5 days after he disappeared. Milwaukee police say 13-year-old Napoleon Herr was found around 2 o'clock this afternoon near 90th and Bender, just a few miles from where he was last seen Wednesday. Police still looking into the circumstances surrounding his disappearance. The boy's family tells us he was bullied at school. City leaders are hoping to stop the violence in Milwaukee through an initiative called Blueprint for Peace. Today they met with business leaders to get more support. CBS 58's Jacqueline Abad joins us live in studio to tell us more.
Blueprint for Peace was unveiled in November. Since then, the city has received thousands of dollars in donations to put this blueprint into action. Now, city leaders want to target these 10 Milwaukee neighborhoods. It's a comprehensive, data-driven plan targeting the areas with the highest crimes. With the help of community partners and donations, they hope to stop the crimes from happening. One of the strategies is Ceasefire Milwaukee, which they hope to implement in Alderman Hamilton's district this spring. This particular strategy would center on going into neighborhoods, building relationships, and intervening to prevent crime.
The next step, we started in terms of doing briefings in neighborhoods throughout the city. We'll continue to do that so that people have questions and want to understand the blueprint, how they can become involved. That is the critical next step.
We can interrupt this so that you don't have constant, what I would call neighborhood feuds that turn into deadly shootouts. So this is easier said than done.
Right now, organizers are hoping to raise $280,000 to implement the blueprint in another neighborhood. Kate, back to you.
Jacqueline, thank you. Lawmakers are returning to Madison for the new year. Wisconsin Attorney General Brad Schimmel sat down with our own Michelle McCormack on the CBS 58 News at 4. He spoke about the ongoing struggle to defeat the crushing opioid epidemic in our state. He says he believes Wisconsin is winning.
For 3 years now, we've been in the top states in the nation, every time in the top 3 states for the amount of unused medications we collect at our drug take-back days. We've collected over 330,000 pounds of unused medications.
At last report, the Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed more than 350 drug overdoses in 2017. Schimmel also covered the future of the state's youth prison system and the decision to repurpose the Lincoln Hills and Copper Lakes facilities. You can watch the entire interview on our website, CBS58.com. Catfishing is when someone creates a false identity online to lure someone in. Now state lawmakers have a plan to stop it. CBS 58's Brendan Cullerton explains.
Lawmakers are calling it the catfishing bill. It makes it a Class B misdemeanor to impersonate someone else in an attempt to harm, frighten, harass, or abuse another person. The term is often used to describe fake online dating profiles, but lawmakers say the bill also aims to cut down on predatory action toward minors and robbing the elderly of their money. They say if nothing else, the bill is a step in the right direction toward the justice system catching up with technology.
People can be lured into situations innocently and then end up having meetings or going further than they should, particularly juveniles. And those are the ones we want to protect the most.
There has not been any major opposition to the bill so far. Proponents say they hope to get the misdemeanor penalty passed as a first step and potentially move on to larger penalties down the road. Reporting from the state capitol, Brendan Cullerton, CBS 58 News.
We want to remind you several of our stations have changed channels starting today. That means rescanning for those of you who use an antenna. If you need help or have any questions about how to rescan, please call our special hotline. The number's there on your screen, 414-203-6440, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Cable and satellite subscribers do not need to rescan. However, some stations will be on new channels.
47 years in police work, 10 years as Milwaukee police chief. What is Chief Flynn's legacy? Here is legacy in his own words. That's coming up in just a couple of minutes.
You're watching the CBS 58 News at 5 with Kate Chappell, Bill Walsh, Chief Meteorologist Drew Burgoyne, and Sports Zone with Kevin Holden.
Welcome back. After almost exactly 10 years on the job, Milwaukee Police Chief Ed Flynn announced his retirement. You saw it live just minutes ago on the CBS 58 News at 4. Now that the shock has subsided a little bit, analysis will be pouring in from all sides. What kind of department, what kind of MPD does Flynn leave behind? Well, Flynn, in his own words, had something to say about that. Take a listen.
What do we leave behind here? And what I leave behind isn't necessarily programs or policies or strategies or tactics. What I leave behind are high quality people who have demonstrated not only a commitment to this city, but an ability to adapt to an era of rapid technological and social change.
Talking about those high-quality people, a lot of them are very new to the force. Flynn said today that nearly 1/3 of his Milwaukee police force has been here less than 10 years. Count on CBS 58 for team coverage on the news at both 9 and 10. We'll have a complete rundown of what the chief and the mayor had to say, and also what some of his critics say MPD is left with under his tenure. We're live at the Milwaukee Police Administration building. Kate, let's send it back to you.
Bill, thanks so much.